Okay, getting a couple last things set up. Yay! Okay, just had to do some testing. So I'm going to switch back to doing a lot of switching. I've been promising myself that I would get better at this. So here we go. There we go. Hi. I need to get the live chat. There we go. All right. Great. You have a couple minutes left to go. Let me just grab my Hangouts. There it is. It is so nice to see you. I just want to make sure I'm recording. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, it's 8 o'clock, right on the dot. So let me just kind of close down a couple other things and here we go. Hi. It is Happy Friday. And if you are a parent or you are in any way related to taking care of kids, Happy Mother's Day. And if you are not a mother, then go tell your mother Happy Mother's Day. She deserves it. So it is straight up 8 o'clock. So let's go ahead, and I just wanted to make sure that we have got all the downloads and things that we want. Essentially, what we're really going to need for this to be able to complete the project for tonight is really just the big fat serif font. My original uses one called Cowboy Rodeo, but you'll also be able to use the one that I linked in the course, which is Acknowledgement. I love that font because anytime you want to make a huge statement, those big fat letters are great for that. Sorry, the other thing that they are really great for is using them as a clipping mask for a photograph, which is what we're going to be doing tonight as we create our very cool sheet for our summer bucket list. So the inspiration for this actually came from my mother-in-law, who's visiting us. She usually visits a couple times a year, and since she lives in Oregon, she stays for a while each time. But it's either usually us going to visit her or she's coming to visit us at the very beginning of the summer. So her arrival or us getting together always signals like the beginning of the summer. So I had that on the brain, I guess, while we were just deciding like, what should we do in the few weeks that you're here? And we started to sort of make a little list of stuff that we wanted. And I was like, we need to make a summer bucket list. So while I was kind of looking around, based on that idea, then I was like, okay, what's the perfect summer photograph? So for us, I grew up in Idaho. I think you guys know that for the most part. So I lived like a whole day's drive away from the beach. And it was seriously like 14 hours from the beach. In any direction along the coast. So needless to say, I didn't get to the ocean very often until I moved here to North Carolina. Now we live like 2 hours from the beach, and it's awesome. So I chose the beach and the waves as my photograph. But primarily what I wanted was to show you this website that has stock photography on it. Normally when, as memory keepers, if we're keeping journals, we're going to be using a lot of our own photographs, but sometimes you got to have something, either to fill in content, say you weren't there to take the photo, or, for whatever reason, the photo you wanted was spoiled somehow, or, it's an awesome skyline and theirs was better than yours. Don't hesitate. So for this, I actually did choose a stock photo, and it made it super easy because then I just went and copied it and it was done. So that's one of the cool features that I'll show you about Photoshop that I use all the time. All the time is that you can basically just copy anything off of the web and paste it right into a Photoshop document. It's so cool. I'm going to show you one other little trick that you can do on Windows and on Mac to be able to get not only individual images, but if for some reason you need a whole screenshot or something stuck embedded inside of something, I'll show you that too, because I gotta say, no image is safe from us. When mama wants, mama's gonna get. So the images that are in that link there are all royalty free, no attribution even. So let's go ahead and skip out there. I'm going to switch over. Oh, should we wait for a few more people? I've just been like kind of yakking on. Let's see. Gary, woo, mwah. I'm so happy to see you. It's so nice to see you guys. Okay. Oh, thank you. Jared just brought me a drink. Hooray. Pat, oh, this is so nice. Kathleen, I'm so glad you're here. So super excited about this one. I know that Gary is a teacher, so he's probably looking forward to making his summer bucket list. And, you know, it's one of those things like round about the beginning of May, everybody with anybody in some kind of a school sort of thing is always like, has their eyeball on that calendar, whether that's the end of May or the beginning of June, or if you're year round, it might be someplace even later than that. But summer is one of those awesome times where you can plan for cool stuff and then you can make it happen. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll go kind of slow on this and then we can sort of repeat backward. If you are, okay, here we go. If you are a subscriber to Photoshop Friday Forever, there's a special treat in here that I'll be showing you how to do this text on a circle that we'll sort of be walking past here in just a second. So let me switch over, and we're going to go to screen share. There we go. I'm pretty sure we do application window because that way all the pop-ups work. Okay, so you're just going to have to tell me. So you don't have to come over here and check. Okay, did that work? Can y'all see my my Photoshop screen? Please say yes. Okay. So Megan has posted the link, and all you need to do is go ahead and enroll, and then there isn't a lot to download in here aside from the fonts and then the template itself, which is a letter-sized PSD file. So this is going to be super easy to print out, and there's lots of lines on which you can make your amazing bucket list for the summer of 2017. So what I did basically was, oh, hang on. Something's gone amiss here. Hang on. Okay. Phew. Okay, so now you can see Photoshop, right? I don't know why, you know, you'd think that after doing this every month for, you know, that I would get better at it. I probably will. I don't know. It's the thing though. This is situation normal is technology abandoning you right when you need it. So this can be used for lots of different things, but let's go ahead and open this. It's a letter-sized PSD, as I said, and this works exactly the same way in Photoshop Elements as it does in the full version of Photoshop. So you don't have to worry about that part too much. When we get into doing this little, and you know, I might give you a little secret, like peek into this text on a circle here, because it's pretty cool stuff. And you showed up. So that's pretty amazing to me. And so I'm going to give back. The first thing that we need to do is go ahead and just type out the piece that we want to have be the clipping mask. So this would be exactly the same thing as drawing a shape or using one of the shape tools over here. Type will work exactly the same way. So let's go ahead and just grab our horizontal type tool. I'm just going to click down to create a cursor. And one of the ways that you can zoom in and out really easily on a Photoshop document, if it feels like you're getting sort of in and out sickness, which happens sometimes, Command and 0 will actually fill your screen. So this is with the Move tool, and let's just pretty much say the Move tool. Some of the tools don't work, most of them, in fact. So when you have the Move tool selected, Command and 0 will actually fill your screen with whatever your document is, and Command and 1 will put it to 100%. So those are the ones that I use the most often. And then I have my zoom with scroll wheel setting for pretty much all the other times. So For this, I'm going to go back out to something like 50% because I want it to be zoomed in further, but not like, right up against my eyeballs. So let's go ahead and grab our horizontal type tool. I'm going to come to the top of the layer stack here and just click down to make a cursor. We can make some changes here in the options bar at the top of the screen, or it'll be at the bottom of the screen if you're in Photoshop Elements. So if you're using acknowledgement, such a cool font. That one looks like this. ACK, you can just start typing and it will get you it'll sort of narrow the list down, which is pretty cool. And we're going to make this nice and large, and then we're going to have to resize it anyway. So just pick something from the list, and then we can do 2017, and we go, yeah, it's going to be amazing. So what I'm going to do here is just set that up a little bit up to the top corner here, and then I've just aligned it with the edge of the little line work that you can see that comes across our the little circle badge, so that when I line that up, now I can just click and drag on that corner and it will come down, but I know that it's going to be even across on that left-hand side. So I can basically just pull it until it looks good. That way I know it's kind of lined up on that side. So here is what this initial one looks like. Once we put this mask in, then we can move it back down underneath the badge if we wanted to. Acknowledgement is not as tall of a font as Cowboy Rodeo is, but it has the same great big block effect. So let's go ahead and switch out to our images. Pixabay, you can use your own photographs, of course you can. I just wanted to choose beach, so I just said beach, and then this amazing, a lot of photos of the beach came up, and it was so great. So basically, all you need to do, I'm going to actually just choose waves and see if that. So I have one that I really like. We'll choose this one for now. Okay, so I'm going to go here. Awesome. And I actually want this one. So this is the actual one I used. And all we need to do for this is right click on the image itself, and then we're looking for our magical copy image. So this actually only copies to your clipboard, and you don't end up with an image saved anywhere. So that's something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. The only version of this image that you're going to have is as part of the Photoshop document that you're about to download it to. So it's different in that way from actually saving this someplace on your file system and then pulling that in as a separate document. So it's something to kind of be aware of. If you delete this PSD file, you're going to remove that image from your file system too. Okay, so we just copy image. Normally, I'm just going to sidebar that. Normally, that's fine with me. But for those times when you really want to have that, say it's a source image for something you're working on, you might want to save that as well, in which case you would come to save image as. But for now, copy image. This works awesome. We're going to switch back over to Photoshop, and we're going to paste that in, just Command and V, or Control and V. Letter V as in Victor. This came in as a little bit small. Good thing it's a stock photo, and we can just resize that. So you'll hold down Shift while you resize. Just pull on that transform handle there to pull it downward. And if you're in the full version of Photoshop, you will hold down Shift. And if you're in Photoshop Elements, you will not hold down Shift. It's actually one of those weird kind of annoying things about, it's fine if they made Photoshop and Photoshop elements different, but when the commands themselves are completely opposite of each other, it makes no sense at all. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and make a clipping mask here. So come over here to our layers palette, and we're going to hover on the line in between our layer 2, which is our photograph. We'll just rename that photo. And our type tool, or our type layer 2017. And we're going to hold down our Alt or Option while we click down. And you can see that our photo now has conformed itself to the size and shape of our 2017. So cool. So let's try a couple of other things. If you love this beachy scene, then you could, but the font is a little too short, then you could come in and make an adjustment to this same type layer here, and you could say summer, and then we'll just resize the word summer. So you can see that I'm in the same type layer so that it's actually going to be part of the same clipping mask. It's perfectly acceptable to change the size of the font in half of a type layer. It makes it a little bit harder to edit later on if you want to change, you're like, oh, I don't like 150. If they're two different sizes, then you're going to have to go in and modify them individually. But it's perfectly acceptable to just say, okay, I want that to be something like 100. Okay, maybe even a little bit less. Okay, a little bit less. There we go. Okay, so I was motivated to keep those as the same layer because I'm lazy and I didn't want to make a whole other clipping mask. So that's the reason I went to that little extra trouble of saying, oh, how many pixels does this need to be? Because normally I wouldn't. Normally, and honestly, I got to recommend this kind of life. Do whatever is going to be the easiest thing that's going to get it done, and be as lazy as you can. So there we go. Sometimes laziness involves, though, taking extra steps so that your future self doesn't hate you in the end, such as saving things or making non-destructive edits. We could go on. So, having your oil changed regularly. These things, sometimes laziness is working hard to enable your future self to actually enjoy the summer of 2017. Okay, so there are a couple of type options here that I wanted to show you here in the full version of Photoshop that aren't necessarily in Photoshop Elements, but I wanted to show you because I know that we're about half and half here, and maybe even a little bit more of us are using the full version of Photoshop. It's so cheap. $10 a month gets you Photoshop and Lightroom. And once you have decided that Photoshop is for you, I think it's worth it. As always, the decision is yours. But I find that a lot of the features that have been coming out, such as the glyph palette, are awesome to be able to have access to that Elements is really never going to have. They do have some stuff that I thought they never would, though. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay, now I'm rambling. Here we go. So inside our character palette, so if you're using the full version of Photoshop, we'll talk here first, and then we're going to move down to our paragraph palette. So there are actually two different palettes here, depending on if you're talking about the individual letters or the paragraph as a whole. So let's talk first about the individual letters in the character palette. You'll get that out of Window and Character. And then I basically just dock that thing in right over here. And then the same thing for Window and Paragraph. I don't take paragraph styles because I never need it. So it's basically being able to pre-make paragraph and character styles, and I never need it. So So let's come to character right here. And there are several different options here. And I don't really ever go into what these are, except for the people who are actually using the full version of Photoshop. So if you're using Elements, you can get an idea of what's in here. And that might help you to say, never going to need it. Wow, I can't believe I have lived this long and didn't have it, or whatever. So so there are a few here that I wanted to show you. This top one right here is the leading, and that one is actually something that is in Photoshop Elements. Leading is the amount of space in between each one of these lines of type that you can see right here. So this one's set for me, and let's just see what happens if I set it to auto. And it's a lot. So what I'll usually do is take a look at how large the font size is, and then do something that's about a third larger than that. So we're going to try like 130 and see what that does. That's pretty good. We could go down a little bit. With these big sizes, it's kind of hard to picture what's going to happen here. Maybe 115. Yours is going to be different, but that brings things together a lot better, I think. So there we go. The other thing that we can do here is change the amount of space between each of the letters as a whole, which is this one right here that's called tracking. Basically, tracking is all of these letters right here have a certain amount of space that's equal in between each one of them. And that's what you can, or not equal, but proportional. And so when you change this number, that's going to change the amount of space across all of the words in the paragraph. That's different from kerning, which is the one that's right here, where you'd actually select two characters and individually modify them. So let me show you the difference. I'm just going to take out these little things here so you can see. Where's the word Sprague? There it is. It was getting all up in the process there, just like a Sprague does. Okay. So what we'll do here is grab our type tool, and the first one I'll show you is the tracking. So basically, with this type layer targeted here in the layers palette, if I set the tracking, I'm actually going to double click so that all of my text is selected here, and I can set the tracking, and this is as kind of like percentages. So this is plus 5%, 10%, 25. Basically, that means that this is going to make the space greater, and then the ones under 0, wait for it, are going to make the space smaller. So you can see what happens pretty dramatically if I say minus 50. So the whole thing goes, that's the noise that makes in my head. You might have another noise, in which case you really should record that and post it someplace, Facebook or whatever, and be like, this is the noise that negative tracking makes in my head. Here's the noise that positive tracking. Let me go back. There. Now we go. Whoop. Nice, huh? Should we do it again? Okay. Now you can see the difference. For this, I actually don't want the word summer to be any closer together because I feel like it's pretty close together already. So I'm going to set this back to 0. And I'm just going to select the number 2017. And this one I can set to be something like negative 25. Now I could start playing with the font size to be able to make these even and get a little bit more height out of my word 2017 because I've been messing with the amount of space in between them. So here we are humming along, and then we see, okay, in this particular font, this 2 and the 0, because they're big round characters, appear really close together on this side over here on the left, but the 1 and the 7 appear to be really far apart. Part of that might be the design of the font, but part of it also is that it just is the way the letters or the numbers are shaped. So this one's straight down, and then the the 7 kind of arcs away right here, so you get this huge amount of space. So we know how to fix that with our kerning. You can actually just select 2 letters, numbers in our case, and then we're going to change them to optical. Awesome. So cool. Okay. So that's how to play with the leading, which we have in Photoshop Elements. That's the amount of space in between. And with the tracking, which is the amount of space in between all of the letters. And with the kerning, which is the amount of space in between groups of individual letters. You can actually change the kern by highlighting over these and then doing, whoops. Okay, now it's abandoned me. I thought it was. Okay. I'll find it. Okay. Hooray. That was a little oh, there we go. Okay, so here you can actually change the kerning. We're going to change it to optical. All right, there we go. Let's try that now. Okay. See, this is the fun thing with live things, right? Hooray. We love technology, and it's both our best friend and our worst enemy. Okay, so I just need to change up this little side of the photo here. And I really like how this is going. Does anybody have any questions as we get to this point? I'm going to switch over and come back to my face for a second while we tackle some. Whoa. There. My face. Okay. Okay. So basically what we've done at this point is we've just copied in the photographs, kind of a sum up. We've copied in a photograph that we downloaded, or we didn't even download. We basically just took a photo off of the internet, pasted it into our document, and then used it with a type layer as a clipping mask. Photoshop Elements Photoshop Elements does not have as many type tools as the full version of Photoshop does. So if you're doing something that, yeah, let's go ahead and grab Photoshop Elements out. If you're doing something where there are only a few letters or numbers in it, it's probably worth doing this little workaround. While I get Photoshop Elements, here we go. Hello. I'll show you this little workaround. Basically, it's manually controlling the spacing in between individual letters, essentially tracking and kerning, tracking being the amount of space between all of them, and kerning being the amount of space in between two individual, so groups of 2 individual characters, kind of manually. It's going to be a little bit more time consuming, but we do what we have to do to get cute stuff, right? There is the billboard of the day. We do what we have to do to get cute stuff. All right. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and open up that same file. I'm going to take this one that's already got the type kind of set up in there, so we can just use that. Oh, and also I'm still showing you my face, huh? Hello. All right. Let me stop showing you my face, and I'm going to show you my screen instead. We're going to switch back. There's my face, but here's my screen. So many little windows till it switches over. Give it a second while the internet tries not to collapse. Come on now. There we go. Okay, so we always want to be editing in the full version, in the expert version of Photoshop Elements. Always, always. Because otherwise, quick and guided do weird stuff and only show you half the thing. And so we've got our photograph here. And I'm actually going to just remove a bunch of these layers so they're not so confusing. There we go. So we're going to say, make that change to acknowledgement, ACK. There it is. Okay. And now we can make it big and then bigger. So you remember in Photoshop Elements that when you're resizing type, you'll actually not hold down Shift. So you're just going to grab this and drag it by the corner, and then it'll look awesome. So let's go ahead and come back to our type tool, and we're going to make a change to the size of the number set here, 2017. So I want to set this to something like 140, even more than that. Great. Oh, and now something happened. Oh, I did 1600 and it won't let me. Look at that. Okay. Okay. So 100. 160. Okay, that's good. And I'm just going to tab out of there. So we can set our leading here in Photoshop Elements the same. It functions the same way as in the full version of Photoshop. The toolbar is located at the bottom of the screen rather than at the top or in one of the palettes. So right here it says leading, and you can change this however you would like to. So let's try 100. And these settings might actually be different depending on whether you're using Photoshop or Photoshop Elements. It's weird. I'll be recording for 2 different things, and all of a sudden it'll be like, oh, wait, that wasn't the right size. It's weird. So I'm actually going to set this to a little bit larger. Actually, I'm going to set the top one to be a little bit smaller. We're getting close. So we can see the same thing is happening here as happened in the full version of Photoshop just a minute ago, which is the 2 and 0 look totally fine, but then the 1 and 7 are like way out here in, in left field. So there is really one main thing that you can do here, and that is to actually separate the numbers 2017 onto their own layers. That way you can individually control them. Here's the way I would go about doing that. Go ahead and click down to create a cursor, and then we're just going to type the number 2 and then grab our T, letter T for type, and then type 0, check mark. Grab the type tool again, 1, check mark. T for type again, click down, and then 7. Okay, so what we want to do is get these into alignment as well as space them apart just how we would want. And then we can resize the whole thing as a chunk. So we'll go ahead and get these kind of set up. When I'm not using an actual grid, I like to pull guidelines down so that it makes it really easy, because Photoshop has this little bit of a snap feeling to it, that, or Elements has a little bit of a snap that actually makes it feel a little bit magnetic towards these guidelines. There we go. So once we get them spaced out right, this is looking good. And now we can simplify these and then collapse them together. Essentially what we'll do is make pictures out of them instead of text. Before that though, let's go ahead and make that larger. That way we won't lose any quality in the pictures since they'll be large enough. So now we're just going to right click, and the only way we can merge layers together here is to simplify them and then right click and merge. So let's come back into our original type layer, and ding, ding, ding. That's the noise that erasing makes in my head. Okay, then we'll pull this up. Look at that. We've got even more room to be able to resize these. So don't hold down Shift. There we go. So the last thing that we need to do is go ahead and simplify. It's basically rasterize. Simplify the layer summer, and then Control or Shift and click both of those. Right click and merge layers. Now we have this perfect, I'm going to pull this photograph up so it sits right on top of that layer. And now we have created the perfect clipping mask. Perfect because we hand made it. And now we'll just clip that in with an Alt or Option and then click down to create our clipping mask. And now we have rocked the summer 2017 Casbah in Photoshop Elements 2. Yes, we have. Okay. So anybody have any, Anybody have any questions about this to this point? If you, so we have some folks that have come in a little late. No problem at all. Normally for Photoshop Friday Live, we'll actually have, since it's on a Friday night, we'll give it another couple of days afterwards. You can view all this content, and then it's going to get archived into the Photoshop Friday Forever subscription. So for this particular one, it's going to be really fun because we've got a couple of other steps in here that I went to. Oh yeah, poor Sandy. She got here right as I was like, and then we're going to do some of this. And like, then we're individually kerning letters, and she's like, what have you done? So if you just got here, it does, it's going to get easy. Okay. That's a lie. It's going to get easier though. It will. And, the more you practice and the more, I don't sort of come on in the middle of the show, things are going to be great. Please don't hesitate to email myself or Megan, and we will get you all of the help that you need. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a peek. You guys ready? Okay. First of all, I need to see a little show of hands here. Oh yes, Wendy. Wendy asks, why did we have to merge the layers? so that they could become a clipping mask. And yes, you're exactly right. So we could have left those separate from each other, but then because we can't have nested clipping masks, you would have had to have one copy of the photo sitting on the word summer and then another copy of the photo sitting on the layer that we had simplified. So that's the reason why we had to work it like that. And so the Photoshop Elements way takes it a little bit longer because we have to sort of manually do some of the stuff that you get that you kind of get automatically with Photoshop, the full version of Photoshop. But there is a lot that you can do in Elements just by faking it that is pretty cool stuff. I did want to show you a little peek. Yes, Kathy's wondering, is the content different for the Photoshop Friday Forever folks? And yes, Megan is just saying there's going to be a bonus this week that's going to be really fun, but I will give you a little bit of a peek into it because this project, as I was making it, I was like, yeah, this is going to be so fun. Because that's usually, you know, if I don't think it's going to be fun, of course, I'm never going to teach it. But there were like 5 things in here that I thought would be really fun. So I was like, what should I do about this? So rather than taking 2 hours, then I wanted to do the big main tutorial, and then I'll show you a couple of other cool things that you can do here in both Photoshop and Photoshop Elements. Okay, so let me switch back to screen sharing. So Photoshop Friday Forever is basically a subscription to where you get access to every Photoshop Friday that there is, current and future, and it's really fun because I release a new tutorial every week, plus I do the free ones, and it's only a few bucks a month, so you can basically have access to those for as long as you are a member. You can download the PDFs that while you're there, and you know, basically start stockpiling stuff if you want to, and then new content will keep coming out each week. So the Photoshop Friday Forever lasts a couple more days, or sorry, the Photoshop Friday Live lasts for a couple more days because it's on a Friday night instead of a Thursday night. And but once that content gets archived, so early next week, then this video and the downloads and stuff will become available to the Photoshop Friday Forever group, and will be turned off for free consumption. Okay, let me show you the cool thing. So cool. That's actually an update. If you are using Photoshop Elements, it's probably 13 or higher. They introduced being able to type on a path. And I'm so excited about this. It's one of the biggest things. As I used to write a column for Creating Keepsakes magazine. Raise your hand here, dear friends, if you remember the magazine, Creating Keepsakes. Are you old enough to remember Creating Keepsakes? So this was way back when I was using Photoshop, like Elements 7, 8, 9, something like that. So I kept pining for, there we go. Yes. So I would pine for the ability to type text on a path. Photoshop Elements did not, and still really does not, have a pen tool, except for in this real specific way. Oh yeah, Kathy, there you go. You raise your hand just like that. You'd be like, me. So you have to say the word me, or type it, I guess. So what was I say? Oh yeah, so type on a path. So I used to have to actually draw paths. Let's talk about this in the context of an actual thing, so you're not looking at my face anymore. Less face, more Photoshop. There we go. All right, here we go. So many windows. Okay, So what I mean by a path, this is going to be a super quick little peek, okay? So don't freak out. But this is something that I wanted to share so that it will be a springboard for you to be able to kind of do some exploration on your own. And then for specifics about this particular project, that'll be one of the bonuses that you get for this week in Photoshop Friday Forever. However, I'm not going to just, not just going to walk away here because I want to show you how cool this is. But this is more of a kind of a sneak thing. Okay, so the pen tool is this tool that's right here about halfway down in your toolbar here in the full version of Photoshop. And it looks, wait for it, kind of like a pen. And you can make all kinds of different stuff like you can draw and you can make weird, little things, and you can draw shapes, and you can get really good at it. And I'm not really very good at it. This is like all precision type stuff, and I'm not really very good at it. So the other thing you can do, this is for if you are getting pretty used to drawing shapes here in the full version of Photoshop. Essentially what I mean is you can draw elliptical marquee. You can actually use the shape tools here. So we're going to try the ellipse tool. So we're going to create a new layer. This is going to be pretty familiar when we switch over to the Photoshop elements as well. We want to create a new layer, and then up here in the options bar here, basically what we're doing is getting our shape so we can type around it. So that's what's happening here. So what we want is to select path. And then we're going to draw, instead of drawing something that's made out of pixels, we're actually drawing a sort of imaginary, semi-imaginary line. It's more like a guideline than anything else. So it's a guide for other things that you might add on to here to follow. So once we create this, we'll go ahead and just click and drag to make our thing. Now, this is a shape, a path, and it's nothing else. So there is a paths palette here in Photoshop, and that's really the main way that you can access all the different paths that you can have in here. For now, what we want to do is just click on our horizontal type tool. This is pretty magical. So lean in close. Here we go. I'm actually going to lean in close. There. How's that for close? So there are two ways that you can interact with the type tool here in the full version of Photoshop when you hover over a path. One of them, which is the one that matters for this lesson, is when you hover right over the top of the path. You can see your cursor changes into a little I-beam like you would type, but then it has this little sort of curvy uphill kind of a dotted line that goes through it. So if I click down, now I can type things. Let's make that really smaller though, so we can see. Oh yes. So if your head exploded, that's fine. Go do like a run around your office singing the Rocky theme, because this stuff is awesome. So the other way I could do this, let's go ahead and just go back from there, is type tool again. And instead of hovering right on that line, which would cause me to type around the circle, Photoshop CC has the ability to actually type inside of the circle too. So when you come inside of the circle, you can see your I-beam cursor actually turns into an I-beam with a little circle, a dotted circle around it. And from here, you can just start typing. And of course, it's a mess because my font and my leading are way too big. There we go. Okay. So cool. So you can imagine that you would keep typing here and the shape would begin to fill itself out as you began to, or as you kept typing, right? So you could actually tell that you typed inside of a circle. Okay, so that's a little sneak for the full, for the full version of Photoshop. So now let's look. I gave you the badge for the PSD file, which is right here. I'm going to turn these things off, and you can see that that is the way that I created this little piece around here. So the specifics of how to do that are what I'm going to be sharing in the extra bonus tutorial material. But you got the generals, which is pretty cool stuff. Okay, so let's try in Photoshop Elements. This is big. So we can go ahead and just move this. We'll move that up here. And we can take out our old 2017. And then I'm just going to take these two layers. This will work the same way in the full version of Photoshop, and just put them underneath the badge, right down here at the bottom of the layers palette. And then just kind of move those around as we need to, and then move the other layers as we need to. These are flattened in yours. There we go. And it's amazing. Okay, so let's talk about that path thing again in Photoshop Elements. Are you ready? Are you leaning in close? Okay, here's me leaning in close. The way this one works is actually using the type tool, and that is the main difference, because Photoshop Elements doesn't really have the idea of a path tool as a tool. So they kind of get sneaky about it and say, okay, here are all the things that you can, all the ways of the type tool that there are. So the one that we want is the one that actually says text on a custom path. There's also one that says text on a shape. We're going to do the text on a custom path one. I'm sorry, no. We're going to do text on a shape. Text on a custom path is the one we did at the beginning, where it was, you could draw a swirly or whatever, and your text would sort of flow along that line. If we want to draw around a shape, we're going to need to have that shape. So we're going to choose our rectangle, or sorry, our ellipse tool, not our rectangle. That's never going to make a circle. We're going to draw using our draw ellipse, and we're just going to click and drag to draw that out. Now here is one instance where you're going to have to hold down your shift key, because since it's an ellipse tool, Photoshop doesn't know if you want it to be a full circle unless you say yes by holding down your shift key while you drag that out. So this ought to look pretty familiar to what's going on up here, right? It's not going to make you choose any other tools, because this is specifically for typing on this shape. So we're going to zoom way in here so you can see it. And once I've drawn the shape I want, then we'll hover our mouse, and you can see that cursor is the I-beam with the little kind of uphill dotted line. So we click down. This is again going to be enormous, so we want to change that. And oh my goodness, how cool is this? So there is the little sneak, and it's looking pretty nice. So again, if you this is one of the bonus materials if you're interested in learning the details of this, as well as several more tips. The other one that I show you in the full course, or the additional bonus material, is actually how to make the lines with the separation in between them. Super quick and easy. So let's go back to like a cute version of this so you can see. Okay. There is what we end up with. So cool. So recap. Tonight, in this, we talked about using type as a clipping mask for a photograph. We also talked about the various ways that you can manipulate type in Photoshop CC using leading, tracking, and kerning, and the ways that you can manipulate type in Photoshop Elements, which includes leading and then basically faking kerning and tracking by putting each letter on its own individual layer, repositioning them, and then flattening the whole thing down so you can use it as a clipping mask. We then talked about just a couple of quick preview hints about how to draw text around a path in the full version of Photoshop as well as in Photoshop Elements. So cool. So hopefully you're going to join me in Photoshop Friday Forever so you can get access to this course and all of its materials as well as the bonus segments. So let's go ahead and I'm going to switch back to my face so I can see. There we go. Where's my face? There's my face. Hi. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to toss them in right now. And I've got a little, we have a couple of minutes now. Or please don't hesitate. Send me an email, JessicaSprague.com. Or you can submit a ticket, which will basically do the same thing because Megan keeps my brain in her pocket and she can answer almost everything, and anything that she needs to pass along, of course, then I will help out. If you have any requests for what you would like to learn in future versions of or in future installments of Photoshop Friday, please don't hesitate. If you have requests for what you would like to learn in general, please don't hesitate with that either. I am so glad that you made the time to be able to join me here tonight to talk about our own summer bucket lists. So my special request is that that you finish this and gather the people around you who love you, and you write some things down on your list. And in fact, even if you don't get this finished, say tonight, I'd love for you to go on your favorite social media and make your list. So top 5 things that I got to get done this summer. So one of mine is I really want to see, and now I'm trying to sort of gauge if I should say anything because if I don't get it done, right? One of the things I really want to do is start getting in my getting my backyard done. So that's going to take a bunch of different steps. It's basically like a field out there, and it literally was a field out there until we had a kid who lives down the street come by with a machete and a weed whacker and the lawnmower in order to like make way back to the trees. It's crazy. So there's a lot of work to be done there, but that's one of them. So I'm also going to go to New York the beginning of June with my sister-in-law. So visit New York is on my summer bucket list. So I would love to hear from you. Go ahead and tag me. I'm at Jessica Sprague on Instagram. I'm at Jessica Sprague on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter. I'm at Jessica_Sprague. So I would love to hear some of the items on your bucket list. And it looks like Gary's got one big one on his bucket list, which is he's going to Spain. Okay. All right. Someday, right? Someday I will get in Gary's suitcase because he gets to go on awesome trips. All right. It is so wonderful to see all of you guys and to read your comments here. And as soon as you get that done. I hope to hear from you. Have a wonderful weekend. For those of you who are mothers or who have a mother, who know a mother, please make sure that you acknowledge them over this next weekend. Parenthood is an incredibly difficult job, and you know, your mama deserves to hear from you. So go call your mother. All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.